Hey everybody, Chuck here, KK6USY for Ham Radio Adventures. Hey, I got a package in the mail. It's from PackTenna. Let's see what's inside. Okay, I actually know what's inside this box. George from PackTenna sent me an email a week or two ago saying that he had seen one of my videos and noticed that I said that something about breaking my mast. Now, I never actually contacted him for breaking my mast. It was my fault. But he offered to send me the replacement parts, and that's what we got here today. So let's just let's look it over. And by the way, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. And hit the bell, hit all. That way you'll get future videos. I make a lot of ham radio related videos on antenna builds and all kinds of other builds. So, and also hit that like. It helps the algorithms. So it packed pretty well here. It's in some bubble wrap. It's got a little case. I don't know if you guys can see a little case here. And well, he gave me quite a few parts here. He asked me which section I thought was busted, and I think he sent me enough to overlap if it has to. So I think what I'm going to do today, though, because I have broke a mast before, so I know what not to do. So let's today I'll put the parts in this thing. We'll take it out. I'll show you some do's and don'ts of what I know, and if you have some other ideas, put it in the comments for everybody else and for me. And if you think I did something wrong, hey, be nice about it and tell me what I did wrong. So let's get this thing up. I'll put my mast up, and I'll bring a couple antennas and show you what to do and what not to do. And by the way, if you guys, I've seen some people do reviews on his stuff, and sometimes it looks like they maybe never really looked at his website. He has a lot of information on how to set up his antennas, different ways to set up his antennas. You have to find it. You actually have to click on the description, and it drops it down, and then he's got a couple other sections you can go into, and maybe I'll show that stuff too on overhead. All right, let's get this thing put up, and we will talk about what you should and shouldn't do.
Okay, let's. I'm going to show you some of the site here. I'm not going to show you everything, but so right here I'm in the shop area when I put PackTenna in, and so I'm going to hit shop. And in shop here, let's just go to the link dipole. Let me just go back here a second. This is, unfortunately, there's such a demand for his stuff. It's always, everything's pretty much sold out. He sells a lot of different things. You check out it, just check everything. I'm just going to show a few things. So let's just hit the link dipole. Like I said, you hit the description over here if you see my cursor. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of information for some reason on this antenna. I think the other ones have more on it. But if you come up here to these three little lines up here, hopefully you guys can see this, click that. And then everything's kind of, looks like there's nothing there. But if you come over and you go hit hit support. And then support, you have owner's manuals here. And this is the mini dipole. And let's just click on the download. And it brings up this page here. And it basically, it says the PackTenna mini dipole wire, but I think it has a few other things in here. If you come down, it gives you an introduction. It shows their mast. That's the mast I have right there. And this brings it, this comes down, and he shows different ways of guying it. He's got a guide to a guy pole here, and then he's got a guy ring kit. I actually didn't buy the guy ring kit for mine, but it looks like a pretty nice kit. Then he shows all the different guying, how he guides it out and how they hook up. And then it comes down to a 1-to-1 feed point on this ballon. And I'm pretty sure this is their link dipole. And you come down here, and then it shows what's underneath there and all this. So there is a lot of information. He talks about coax cable, how the clips work. And then he gets into antenna configurations. And this is, tell you the truth, I read this and I'm like, huh, there's some different ways of doing things. And if you just go through here and read all this, like here's your inverted V. That's the typical most people use with this antenna, I'm sure. And it only shows one. It only comes with, I think it only comes with 20 meter to start with. Then you can add the other bands, like at least 40. And then this one shows it with 40 and 20, I think here. But he also talks about what I'll talk about in this video also on how high to go with this antenna. And I think down here, someplace in here it tells about the 20. Oh yeah, right here, extended to the 22-foot area, and that's about where this pole will handle the weight of this particular antenna. Not all antennas, but this one. And then he shows it how you can do it. You know, a dipole is actually flat, and he's showing it in a flat orientation here. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of the site there, and hopefully that helps some people out. I know it took me a little bit of time. I'm not a big computer guy, so we're going to leave it at that, and check it out. Check all the different, whichever antenna you buy, check out what he has written for it, and that'll help you in a long way, on the long run there. That'll help you out a lot. Okay, everyone, I'm gonna do some of this inside so I can control things a little bit better, and hopefully I can show you everything, even the mast parts. But I'm going to start with Coax. This is RG316, and this is something that I made up, but you can buy this already made up also, and it's pretty light, good enough for, 40 and 20 and all that in the short run. But you have to look at what you're putting on your mast, and I'll show you an antenna that needs this feed line, and then I've got a little short piece of the same stuff here. So that's RG316. I'll leave the little one out there because we can compare it then. Now the next stuff I have here is a 195, excuse me, and you can see the difference in diameter of this stuff. And when it gets bigger diameter, it gets heavier. So you gotta think about that. Here's RG8X, bigger and heavier also. And now this piece here is the size. This is RG8 or it's LMR 400. I forget which. I didn't look it up. But basically the same size. Yeah, this is RG8. I think the actual LMR 400 would be just a slight bit heavier. I think the inner core on that is bigger gauge wire, so it would be heavier also. And now if you're going to add something like this is an RF choke. It's pretty heavy. I mean, if you're going to put this on your pole, you better make sure you don't have your pole all the way out. And I would actually put this probably more. I think in George's, he has chokes that he sells, and he actually says put them 25 feet coax and then another 25 and put it in the middle. So check that out on his site also. Now, George didn't have to send me this stuff. I didn't ask for it. He offered it up, and that's just being a good businessman and looking out for his people that buy his product. Okay, now we're going to look into wires and different types of antennas. This is a QRP, guys. This is 26 gauge wire. Okay, this is a silicone-based jacketed wire. It's actually real pliable. I actually like this stuff. Not the strongest. It's copper, but it's not the strongest 26 gauge I own. This is my like 2.5 ounce antenna. Now this is an antenna that you can, because this part goes at the radio. The only thing that goes on the mast is this wire, and this is 26 gauge poly stealth, and this is 26 gauge also. You can see the difference in how it wraps up. This is a little bit heavier, and this is the silicone-based wire, a little more pliable. This has the polystealth has a little more memory, and the polystealth is lighter. So yeah, would I put it at the very tip of this PackTenna mast? Probably not. I'd probably bring it down one more to the second one, not the top one. And what I usually do on a lot of my masts, I'll take the top section and glue it to the inside of the second section, just to make it just a little bit stronger at the tip. Okay, we're gonna, like we did with the coax, we're gonna leave this poly stealth out here. Now, like I said, this one, the antenna wire is on top of the mast. This is a link dipole that I made. Not near as pretty as the PackTenna one, but it works. It works really well. And I've put this on here for so I can run just a regular piece of coax to it. And I put this on a Spider Beams 12-meter pole at about 30 feet. And there's a total difference in those two poles. They're made for different things. Just the Spider Beam is more for, you know, parks in the air for sure, or home use and stuff. But this is a 22 gauge wire. Now look at the difference between that wire and say this wire here. Okay, and this is a lot heavier. But what mounts on your mast is this part. So now you've added weight, and I don't know exactly what this weighs. It's still pretty light, but you don't want to put this at the tip of this PackTenna mast. And for the one I showed you earlier, that he suggested 22 feet at that section. Okay, so that's a wire. Now here's a 100-watt antenna. The first ones I showed you, the last one I showed you is 100-watt, but these little ones are QRP. Okay, this one I built for 100 watts, and that's a 100-watt sideband. It's got 22 gauge, so a little bit thicker than this wire. It's hard. I'm sure it's hard to tell. But this is an end-fed half wave. Again, I would put this at the second section at the top, from the top, because all that's going on, the only weight on the antenna is the wire itself, and wire can get really heavy. Now compare this wire to, I think this is 18 or 14 gauge. It's not 12 gauge, but look how big it is, and look how bulky and heavy this is. You can't even see the whole thing, but this gets really, really heavy. If you had an end-fed half wave with this wire on it, I would not put it where I would put this wire at. I would probably come down to that 20-foot section, 22-foot section again. Okay? So hopefully this is making sense of why you have to choose where you want to mount your antenna to your mast. Okay, so this is, let's put, this is RG195 again. So it's a little bit thinner at the this is the very tip of the antenna. So it's a little bit thinner than RG195, or, you know, 56 or something like that. Okay. So it's pretty, you can't see it. It's pretty pliable, and it'll hold up to quite a bit. Now let's bring this down. I think, so there's the 20, this is the 22 feet is actually about here. So this is the section he's talking about, I'm sure. Now, let me, okay. Look at the difference at 22 feet versus 30, I think it was 31 feet 4 inches or 32 feet 4 inches. Look at the difference in how big around this is and how strong this is really strong right here. This bends. You guys can see that bending. I can't bend this piece. So that's the reason he says for anything that has like a 1-to-1 or anything like that, you probably want to come down to this portion of the mast right here. And this will still get you, this will get you out. 22 feet is still good. Okay, so I'm hoping this helps you guys. And I want to show you one more thing. A lot of times, especially for like the light QRP antennas, I don't even use guy lines. Let me grab something. Okay, so what I've built here, and this is, I'm not going to be able to get the whole thing in, but this is a piece of PVC. What I have here, this is a forming stake, one of the shorter ones. It's about 1.5 feet. And what I've done is put some tape on here. And what the tape does just kind of makes it fit tighter onto the PVC. And then I've got a second piece of PVC over the first one right here. Got a second piece over the first one here. And what this does with this little pieces of tape around here, this fills up the bottom of the PackTenna mast. And then I've got a second piece that goes down to here. Okay. And then the other day, I turned this thing upside down. put this on here, and then I have my spider beams out, and I slip this over the top with a little tape here, and then this will slip over the top, and this fits the inside of the spider beams pretty good. And then here's this, just the end of it, just a regular old steel stake. Now, I have taken this out to the beach, local here, and you can see that in some of my videos, and it works pretty good. Sandy soil, it actually held up in some pretty good winds. So that's how I hold mine up. And a lot of times I won't even use guidelines. And sometimes, inverted V, your wires are actually 2 of your guidelines. So if you set if your V happens to set in the direction the wind's going, then you are guide. All right, another thing you can do when you're using, if you have to use big coax like this is all you, say it's all you have or whatever, and it's going to go up your mast. One of the little tricks I've learned is take this and try to push it up tight to the antenna at where you have your antenna mounted, and tape this off in a few sections to your mast. And what that'll do is take some of the strain off. If you push it and get the strain off the antenna where it's attached to the mast, take this just a little bit below it, and then a couple more times, and then whatever else you feel like. It will actually help a little bit. It won't make your mast stronger, but it'll act like it's a little bit stronger. And I've noticed that helps a little bit too. So don't forget to tape it. And it also keeps it from banging around in the wind if it gets windy on you. Okay, everyone. I'm going to use a shotgun mic for this. Sorry for the audio. It probably won't be as good as it usually would be, but I don't have any kind of a wireless mic system. So for now, this is what I got. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the pole up. I'm going to show you how I set it up most of the time, as long as the ground's good. And then I'm going to hang some antennas. I'll probably bring it back down, and I'll probably hang some antennas from a little bit ways up and show you the difference of why you shouldn't probably hang your antenna from the very top of the antenna. Okay, I have my stake that I use. It's just I showed this to you earlier. The hardest part of this whole thing is making sure that you have the stake as plumb or as straight up and down as you can get it. So this ground's pretty soft. Okay, which it looks like it's really not straight. It's pretty good there. Okay, let me get the pole. Okay, in order to make this work with the stake, you have to take the bottom of the mast off. And it's easier if you extend the mast first. So I just hold my hand over it, and I'll put it down over the top. So let me show you that. So I just take the bottom off. I set it over the top here. Be careful not to lose the bottom, because everything will fall out. And usually I will pull I'll pull that first one out and extend it first. I'll try to zoom in after in the post stuff. So what I'm going to do is just put this little S-beaner on top here to hook things to. It just makes it easier. And this is actually what I use a lot of times. You pull it up and twist just a little bit, and that gets the sections. There's your 20-foot mark, 22-foot mark. Okay, it's that easy, man. It's super easy to put up that way. And this thing's pretty sturdy. I mean, it's not going anywhere. But this is really good ground. If you're in sand like I was at the beach, it's a little tougher, but it's still held up. Okay, let me stop. I'll pull an antenna out, and we will hook it up, and we'll show you different antennas and how they work on different parts of the mast.
Okay, this is the my lightest antenna. It's like 2.5 ounces or something, like 2.7 ounces, and you can see how it's just a slight bend. It's 26 gauge wire. It's about as light as you're ever going to get, probably, and no problem putting that on there. Let me set up another one. So now another end fed half wave, just like the first antenna, but this one has 22 gauge wire, so it's a little heavier. You can see bird just went flying by, and you can see how it's got the pole bent just a little more. That's totally acceptable still. And a little bend in your pole, one good thing it does do is it makes it less likely for it to fall down. So, but where it's straight, it can still fall, especially if they get wet. All right, let me set up a different one. This is a little bit exaggerated because I have the wire still hooked on the antenna. But this is like this is a link dipole. It's cut for 40, so it does 40 and 20. And you see how the pole bends, and this is where George says on his site to go down to the 22-foot mark. So I'll change it to that, and we'll see the difference.
All right, so at the 22-foot mark, just a couple inches lower, look how straight the pole is now. Now there's no, all the weight is on it, there's nothing to the sides, but with this antenna you're going to guide side to side, and you might get a little bit of lean, but that actually can be your guy lines also with this setup that I have here. Here's, I think, the antenna that actually broke my mast the first time, and you can see that bend in that. Hopefully you can see the bend there. Okay, so here's the that is a 4-to-1 balun up there, and you can see it's got a little bend. It's at the 22-foot mark, and I've got it guyed off this time, so pretty sturdy. The other thing I learned again is when you're putting your mast up, don't step on the wire. That could be disastrous if you're getting a little rambunctious and throwing that thing up really fast. Okay, hopefully this makes sense to everybody. If it doesn't, you know, put something down in the comments. I'll try to answer your question. I'm pretty good. My spa just came on. I'm pretty good at getting back to people. But so hopefully this will help you, and hopefully you won't break your mast like I did. This mast is it's pretty beefy. I mean, it's not the beefiest mast I own, but it's the beefiest, most portable mast I own. Take this one out if I was only backpacking a couple miles or hiking out to a soda. I hope this was helpful for somebody, or for most of you, or some, especially you new hams that maybe have not used these, and that was my problem. I was a new ham when I bought this pole the first time, and I really didn't understand it, and I actually brought it through some trees and stuff, and that's the problem. So if you did get something out of this, hit that like button, and if you are new here, hit that subscribe, and then hit the bell, hit all, and you'll get all future videos. This is Chuck, KK6USY, for Ham Radio Adventures. 73 all, and be safe. See you on the airwaves.